Hi, everyone. The past year has been a year of a massive shift in the observability landscape. But what's actually happening on the ground? Well, to find out, we at Grafana Labs reached out to the global community for our 4th annual Observability Survey. We heard from over 1,300 engineers and leaders across 76 countries. And today, I'll dive into the data to see what the community told us about the real-world role of AI in observability and how we're all navigating these fast-moving waters. So let's start with the biggest concern in observability today: complexity. According to the survey, the sheer complexity and overhead of setting up and maintaining tooling is the primary bottleneck for most teams. It's a bit of an irony we're all living through. We've built these incredibly sophisticated stacks to give us visibility, but the sheer amount of telemetry that we're producing has created its own kind of fog. It's a massive drain on resources, but it's also where AI's current capabilities shine. AI is uniquely suited to find correlations across multidimensional data at scale. So instead of an engineer manually dashboard hopping to link a specific anomaly to a system change, AI can correlate those events almost instantly. It can look, for example, at a sudden spike in error rates and immediately point to a configuration change or a specific PR that was merged just a few minutes earlier. Effectively, it turns a 1-hour manual investigation into a 10-second confirmation, allowing the team to move straight to the fix. Now, while AI can, in principle, help reduce complexity, a key finding from the survey is that people don't want to replace one form of toil with another. The biggest hurdle to adoption of AI is the requirement for too much manual input. Essentially, engineers don't want to spend more time feeding an AI context than they would have spent solving the issue themselves. They want a system that understands the environment out of the box. Our survey isn't the first one to observe this sentiment among developers. Recent research from the Stanford Digital Economy Lab looked at enterprise cases where AI successfully moved from pilot to production, and they highlighted a critical reality. While we expect the technology to be the hard part, failures typically don't stem from inadequate model quality. Instead, they hit a wall with poor workflow integration and context depth. Solving context depth requires a fundamental shift, moving from feeding the AI snippets of data to giving it access to the full environment. And that's been the guiding principle behind our development at Grafana Labs. By leveraging the telemetry already unified in the platform and providing access to additional data sources, the AI gains immediate access to the full context of the environment. So it's not just looking, for example, at logs in a silo. It's seeing the same interconnected picture you see. This turns AI into a collaborator that understands your specific stack, rather than an apprentice that needs constant hand-holding and direction. Now, one of the most significant shifts in 2026 is the demand for transparency. 95% of respondents stated it's important for AI to show its reasoning, whether that's citing documentation, explaining its query logic, or providing the internal chain of thought the model used to correlate different signals. In our world, a black box answer is a real risk. We don't want the AI to just give us an answer. We want it to show us its work so we can verify the conclusion before taking action. But there is a small nuance here that I would like to double-click on. While users want transparency, the latest research on LLM reasoning suggests that simply seeing the thinking is not enough. This paper from researchers at Goodfire AI and Harvard challenges the idea that a chain of thought provides a truly transparent window into the AI's logic. What they found is a phenomenon where models often look like the reasoning, but they've actually decided on the answer early on. This is what they call reasoning theater or performative reasoning, where the AI makes a near instant decision and then generates a long, plausible sounding justification to satisfy the user. The takeaway for us is critical. We cannot treat a chain of thought as a substitute for verifiable evidence. That's why at Grafana Labs, we focus so heavily on grounding the AI in your data and treating chain of thought like any other system output, as something to observe, test, and verify rather than take at face value. We pressure test the model's reasoning using counterfactuals and adversarial evaluations to ensure its logic holds up under scrutiny. By anchoring that logic in the entire context of your operations, your real-time telemetry, your incident history, your alert rules, your chat-up conversations, and so on, we ensure the reasoning you see is anchored in and constrained by your environment's ground truth, rather than just a performative explanation. And this brings us to the core of the AI conversation: trust. When we ask how valuable it would be for AI to handle various tasks within an observability platform, we saw a high readiness for things like anomaly detection, dashboarding, query generation, forecasting, onboarding, and root cause analysis. But that readiness drops drastically when it comes to autonomous action. 15% of respondents explicitly stated that they don't yet trust AI to act on their behalf. And of those that do trust AI, 36% say that it's not valuable or only somewhat valuable. Essentially, people readily adopt assistive AI, but they remain very skeptical of autonomous AI. And that makes perfect sense. Trust is earned, not granted. Autonomous AI is a long-term evolution that can only happen after the technology has proven its reliability over time. That's why our approach at Grafana Labs centers on human-in-the-loop AI. Instead of building a closed system, we ground our models in your unique operational context. And by keeping the workflow interactive, we ensure the AI acts as a reasoning assistant that you can steer and validate in real time. The goal is not to replace your judgment, but to accelerate it. Finally, let's look at LLM observability. Compared to every other emerging area in our survey, LLM observability is still in its infancy. In late 2025, when we ran the survey, 29% of organizations said it's not on the radar yet, and only 14% were actually using it in production. Now that we're a few months into 2026, it's likely that more organizations are adopting LLM observability. But I don't actually expect adoption to be drastically different. And this creates a dangerous discrepancy. The industry is rushing to ship AI agents, but very few have the eyes on them to know if they're working. Most teams are effectively flying blind. As a recent Gartner Innovation Insight report points out, and as many of you likely feel instinctively, LLM observability is the strategic enabler for modern AI. We've already seen that trust is the biggest barrier to adopting autonomous AI. And you can't build trust by just deploying and crossing your fingers. You need telemetry that allows you to scale with evidence. By systematically evaluating prompts and monitoring performance in real time, you move away from guesswork and toward deterministic quality. This level of visibility is exactly what closes the trust gap. It turns a black box mystery into a transparent system you can actually verify and rely on. Gartner identifies LLM-specific signals that traditional observability simply doesn't cover, such as prompts, generated responses, and token usage. And since you told us that cost is your number one selection criterion for selecting new observability tools, managing token consumption becomes a core requirement. By surfacing LLM-specific signals alongside your existing infrastructure data, you're transforming AI from a black box into a first-class citizen of your telemetry. And the reality is that while the majority of organizations aren't yet observing LLMs in production, Gartner's research suggests that when they do, they will not want another AI silo. They'll want to monitor agentic systems alongside the rest of their infrastructure. At Grafana Labs, we've anticipated this by building AI observability tools that live where your data already lives. By monitoring complex agentic systems alongside your existing infrastructure, you ensure your AI is not a siloed experiment, but a reliable, observable part of your ecosystem. So the 2026 Observability Survey results show us that we're moving beyond just observing our systems to actually conversing with them. With AI, we're finally at a point where you can ask a dashboard, "What's wrong?" and actually get a useful answer instead of a wall of raw logs. But the results also reveal that we're making a sharp distinction between intelligence and autonomy. Most of us will happily trust AI to find the needle in the haystack, but we aren't ready to let it sow our parachute. Mostly because we're afraid it might decide that the most efficient way down is to skip the parachute entirely. It's a sign that our use of AI is maturing. We're past the honeymoon phase and into the pragmatic realization that while AI is incredibly good at probabilistic detection, observability still requires deterministic truth. Essentially, we stopped looking for a magic wand and started looking for a trusted co-pilot. And to me, that's the optimistic takeaway. AI isn't here to replace us. It's here to take the busy work. It's moving us from the toil of finding problems to the craft of solving them. If you'd like to dig into the numbers yourself, you can find the full report on our website. We've also built an interactive dashboard where you can slice the data by region, industry, role, or company size to see the trends that matter most to you. We've put together a deep dive into our own takeaways, but the real insights come when you apply the data to your own world. Appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.